Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing very well. This morning is not true crime related at all. So if that's what you're here to listen to, that's not what we're talking about. I'm responding to an article that I read this morning on MSN.com, and it's basically about Mr. Beast. And as you know, Mr. Beast is incredibly popular, maybe one of the top. I think he may actually be the number one YouTuber. And his videos are uplifting, and he takes on quite a bit of philanthropic activities, right? He helps other people. He builds houses for people that live in poverty. He provides food for people that have no income, things like that. So he's a cool channel. If you haven't ever watched him, it's worth taking a look at. But I thought this was fascinating because, and this is in comparison to the negative people that are in the true crime community. There are a few creators whose entire channel is just bullying other creators, right? Like one of those people is this lady, her channel is named Nonsense. And I, I think she first came to notoriety by attacking without a crystal ball. And to be fair, Katie Joy has not often inspired others to greatness, but Nonsense has been fairly vicious. Um, if you don't want to say vicious, you can say she's pretty committed, right? She'll make 50 videos attacking the same creator night after night after night after night after night, like it's never ending. And she does seem to get a she does seem to she's it's like she believes that she's doing the world a favor. She wears the cloak of the great crusader. It reminds me of Nietzsche, right? You stare into the abyss long enough, it stares back at you. And most people would admit that that's a caution against anything you see that you dislike. If you look at it and you talk about it, be careful because you will soon become that thing that you're obsessed with. You may start hating someone because they gossip about others, and now you actually become the person who is gossiping about others. And that it does seem to be what has happened to Nonsense. Now, of course, I don't know the woman. I didn't know her before without a crystal ball. I I didn't know her at all. But when someone gets so obsessed with being a crusader, when they choose one, two, three people or a group of people to day after day after day after day make these videos that are so aggressive and so hurtful, so personal, you've now fallen into the rabbit hole. You now are exactly the thing that you have decided shouldn't be happening. So again, she wears a cloak of I'm doing this for the right reasons. I'm doing this because I'm a good person and you are not a good person. I'm here to right the world's wrongs. And in truth, she just, well, just go to her channel and look. I don't have to tell you what to hear or what to think. Go look on your own, come up with your own conclusions. But I'm perplexed by it, right? Because there's so many of these people that uh, creators that build their entire channel on bullying. They can call it what they want to call it, but when you choose one person and you go after them day after day after day, there is no other definition except, hey, this is the definition of bullying in the purest sense of the word. So I read this article about Mr. Beast, and I was so just curious about how a guy who builds houses for other people, how is it that other YouTubers are bullying this guy? How do they see it that they look at him as somehow being bad? Now, what is it that they're saying? Well, it's exactly the same MO as Nonsense and many of her friends that have this idea that YouTube creators should not be discussing true crime cases. They should not be giving their opinions about what the various pieces of evidence suggest. They believe this. They think they're in the right about this. And yet you've got a guy like Mr. Beast who is now being accused of this craziness, this insanity. He's being accused of exploiting other people's misfortune. Yeah, that's right. So when he goes to El Salvador and he builds 100 new modern houses with running water for people that are living in shacks or houses made of cardboard, he has a hater group like Nonsense and others. He has a hater group that is saying, you're a horrible person. You're a horrible person for exploiting these people's misery. Okay, so there's something interesting about this dynamic. Normal people, regular people, will watch and see, okay, so Mr. Beast builds 100 houses and gives them away to low income people, or builds houses in El Salvador or Brazil rainforest. And yet we see that and our heart is warmed and we think this is so wonderful that people get out of the rain, right? No bugs in your house. You're protected. I mean, those Amazonian bugs are terrifying creatures. We see a guy who's using his position and influence to make the world a better place. But this group of haters who are virtue signalers, who lift themselves up by saying, I'm better than everybody else because I don't, blah, blah, blah. This same group of people are saying, no, Mr. Beast, you guys are confused. He's not a good guy. He's not using his power, position, and influence for good. He is exploiting other people's misery. Let that sink in a minute. They believe this. These people are really motivated and organized and angry. They believe it. Here's something that Mr. Beast did. He paid for the doctors, surgeons, to remove cataracts from the eyes of 1,000 people. That's right. This man used his YouTube channel, the money and the influence to find doctors. He paid for these surgeries, 1,000 surgeries that these people could not have afforded. They could not afford it. And yet this man who they didn't know, he comes in and he takes 1,000 people that want the surgery. He pays for it with his money. And now there are 1,000 people in the world that can see. They can actually see because of Mr. Beast. And some of the criticisms were, it wasn't his role, it wasn't his job to get them surgery, that it was the government's job to get surgery. The government should have done that. And I'm going, wait a minute, actually, technically, you would be wrong about that. The United States Constitution doesn't say anything about the government is supposed to provide surgery to people. Should they? Yes. And if we end up with socialized medicine, then it will be the government's job to do that. but the actual government's job is to provide for national welfare. So I thought this was so insane that this great story of substance, that this one guy has this inspiration. Hey, let's pay for the surgery of 1,000 people so they can see again. And there are literally people out there that are so screwed up, who are so negative, whose own lives must be so filled with misery that they can take an inspirational story like that and turn it into a negative attack. So as I was reading through this, that the guy goes into Mexico, Argentina, Jamaica, El Salvador, like I said, Colombia. He goes in and he builds houses for these people. And yes, it is true. As they're building these houses, as they're going through this process, they do film them. It is a YouTube channel. They film it. They don't focus on the negative lives of the people living in poverty. They just show, hey, this is what they're dealing with. Here's the problems that they are dealing with in their life. They don't have running water in their house. We're going to build them a new house with running water. And then it shows the family, and they're just like, oh my God, thank you, thank you. This is so great. And the prayers are answered because of Mr. Beast, correct? But if you are a person who has an antisocial, if you have a tendency toward antisocial personality disorder, if you are an incredibly jealous person, if you are a person who has experienced betrayal and heartache in your life, if you feel like you never received love or you were never given the acclaim that you felt like you were entitled to, then that puts on a pair of glasses over your eyes. It makes you see the world through a lens that is incredibly negative, and anything that you see, you find the negative point of view. So when you see a guy go into the jungles of Mexico or Colombia, and you see him take a family out of a cardboard box and put them into a brick and mortar home that has running water, you don't see a man that just improved the lives of a family. You see a man who is getting attention for his YouTube channel, and you're pissed because you didn't get the attention that you should have gotten for something that you wanted. And now, because you think that those people were exploited, because you are looking, your worldview is one that turns things upside down and inside out from reality. Now you say, I've got to protect these people from exploitation. I've got to speak out on the wrongs of Mr. Beast building these new houses. I have to reveal him to be the exploiter that he is. That is so ridiculous. And if you are, in fact, that creator who's looking at other creators, that you have become obsessed with another creator who is just talking about stories in the news, then you need to go and find someone to talk to and work through why it is that you're so obsessed with what another person is doing. For example, if you are so against people like me talking about true crime cases, why don't you do what you claim to be doing? Instead of being the bully, instead of attacking others, why don't you just take your channel and start covering true crime in a way that you enjoy? Cover true crime in the ethical manner that you supposedly think should be covered. Why don't you do that? And I don't think you give a damn about true crime, to tell you the truth. I don't think you care about true crime. I don't think you care about how true crime is covered. I don't think you care about the supposed victims that you say you're standing up for. I think you're bitter and angry, and I think you just want to be a bully. I think when you are bullying other people, it makes you feel superior. But you'd be wrong. You're not superior when you bully other people. You're just revealing yourself to be powerless. I don't know. YouTube is a great platform. It is. They when they conceived of YouTube, um, the the model that it would take, where people who had artistic endeavor, people that wanted to be storytellers, people that hoped one day to be news anchors, people that had a talent for singing or other things, to be able to showcase their talents in a way that it might get them some recognition, like Justin Bieber. Certainly, Justin Bieber is the most famous of YouTubers. It's the way he was discovered, by singing on a YouTube channel. But to be able to provide people that had a dream or had a wish to share their story, or just for lonely people to come together and make some friends at the end of the day. It was a great concept. It was a wonderful concept. And then someone in the room said, well, wait a minute, I have an idea. If these people are going to go through all of the trouble of writing stories or gathering their data, their information and background stories, or recording their music, or doing their drawings, or reporting news, breaking news, or like Icknell uh, going live every time there's a high speed chase of the police. Maybe we should give people the opportunity to tip them. If you go to a bar and you sing a song, there's a tip jar. Maybe we should let them do that. Or starving artist sales, where an artist draws or paints all these pictures, and then you can go in there and buy a painting for $5. Maybe we should. Maybe we're going to make a platform to allow talented, interesting people to put their content out in the world for others to consume. Maybe we should give a tip jar. And they did. And then it took off. And pretty soon, Google's going, wait a minute, we should get in on this action. We had no idea it was going to be this popular. And then YouTube was added to the AdSense platform. And now Google pays. If you reach certain thresholds every month, then you get a paycheck from Google. If you're one of a handful of people that you have somehow come up with this crazy idea that people on YouTube that are getting money for their content, that they're bad people, that they're exploiting other people, you were in the wrong. You just are. The sheer numbers of this, the backing of Google itself, the backing of ABC companies, you're wrong. It This platform was designed for people to try to make a career out of broadcasting, or to make a career out of storytelling, or to make a career out of singing. I watched Allie uh, from Ireland this morning singing on the road. I watch her every morning. It's a special type of narcissism, not narcissist personality disorder, but an element of narcissism, that a person will look at something and feel like they're somehow rising above by determining this is bad, this is wrong. You're wrong. This platform was designed for exactly what's happening. And there are people that others like. They're charismatic. They like the way they put their channel together. They attract a large following, and Google says thank you. Because all those people, if you're someone that you can get 1,000 live viewers during a 4-hour live, Google notices that. YouTube pays attention to that. And here's why. Because those 1,000 people that are sitting there watching Brittany J, those are 1,000 people that could be sitting in front of an ABC program on television, which spells the end of YouTube. So the people at YouTube and Google or ABC, they're not sitting around making moral judgments about who are the good people and who are the bad people. Only confused people think they have the right to cast judgment on other people's character. They just want to know, do other people like this person? Do other people like the way they sing? Do other people like what they draw? Do other people like the stories they're telling? Do other people like the content they're bringing? And if they do, I want to give them a platform and I want to give them a piece of YouTube success. I want to pay them some money. And YouTube benefits from that. What gives you the right to run around like a bunch of mean girls and say, oh, they're horrible. They're exploiting people. They're exploiting others. No, they're not. We're talking about news stories. Let me give you an example of what exploitation would be, okay? If a guy came along and said, oh, well, I dated Katie Proudfoot. I dated Katie Proudfoot when she was 15. Let me tell you what she did, what she was like. Because that has nothing to do with the price of eggs in China. Has nothing to do with the news story of this kid who did not poof in the middle of the night. But to talk about the fact that the mom was the last one that was there with the child, to talk about that is the news story. And you can bet your bottom dollar the cops are talking about that too. To talk about the fact that police dogs could not pick up a scent of a boy who lived in the house and lived in that yard, but there was no scent. Why is that, Chris? Was something sprayed on the ground? Why is that? We can talk about that as a news story because I promise you the cops are thinking about that as a news story. When Orrin and Olson Wells went missing, or West went missing, we all watched that mom and dad. We all watched that mom and dad in the same way that we watched Christopher Watts. We all said the same thing. This is going to be bad. Now, if Chris Watts had not admitted to doing it in the police interrogation, maybe he would have gotten away with it. Maybe we would have gone years before there was an arrest. But in the end, they did get those parents that killed those 2 little boys. And in the end, Barry Morphew was arrested for Suzanne Morphew's murder. And he will be again. I am 100% certain that Barry Morphew is going to prison. But you've got, in these cases like this, look at Charlie Adelson. 8 years before Charlie Adelson was arrested. You listening, Christopher Proudfoot? 8 years before he was arrested. 10 years before the mother was arrested. So why is that? If you say, oh, well, if they're guilty, we know it immediately. The cops will get them immediately. Oh, no, 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 no. There's a district attorney there. There are police officers there, and they are working together right now today. They're saying, here's the charging, here's the law that this is what we have to be able to prove. I need to make sure I have evidence for A, B, C, and D. Now get out there and find it for me. That's what happened in the death of Libby and Abby. They needed a piece of evidence. And I don't even remember how long it took. What was it, 5 years, 6 years? So just because your beloved Chris and Katie are walking around free today, don't make any mistake about it. That DA, they know what they're going to charge. They know what they're looking for. They know what they're going to need to present in a court of law in front of a jury of their peers. And you guys are welcoming. You are vying and fighting over who's going to be Christopher Proudfoot's next wife. Do you know how dumb you sound? He's got a wife. You claim like you're this caped crusader fighting for the rights of victims everywhere, and you think it's even remotely socially appropriate to joke about being Christopher Proudfoot's next wife as he has a wife? Just not to mention the embarrassment of him having how many marriages? You think it's funny, but the rest of the world sort of going, well, that was cringy. That was a little uncomfortable. So you don't see that kind of nonsense on these channels that you're attacking. You don't see that kind of nonsense. A lot of these channels are gathering information all day long for the show that they're going to put on that night. They're not perfect. These people are not perfect. They make mistakes. Maybe they say something that they shouldn't have said. I've done it. It is not uncommon for my mouth to overload my behind when I get mad. But it doesn't mean I'm walking around as the great enforcer pummeling people's heads. There's mistakes that are made. Even your beloved Gray Hughes. He's the fearless leader. He and Scientific Skeptic. These two guys are the fearless leaders of, you should not be talking about these true crime cases. You're exploiting other people's misery. Okay, but Court TV isn't. Court TV isn't exploiting misery. Just YouTube channels. Is Hidden True Crime exploiting people's miseries? He's a forensic psychologist. She's a reporter who did court and criminal proceedings. Are they exploiting? Or is it just the smaller channels? Because Gray Hughes, who is well known for saying, maybe even in every one of his broadcasts, only report the facts. You should only talk about the facts. You should never talk about anything, just facts. Only the facts, nothing else. You should never speculate. You should never give your opinion. You should just read like a newspaper article. Okay, I don't give him any flack for that. It's his channel. It's successful. He can do as he pleases. It's not my role, my job to have an opinion about the way he runs his channel. But he made a couple of mistakes. What were they? Well, in the case of Caleb Harris, I thought my jaw hit the ground when this happened. In the case of Caleb Harris, Gray Hughes went on his channel and told everyone that Caleb Harris was having a meetup in the middle of the night, that he was a homosexual who was out to meet up some man that he didn't know for quick sex. Gray Hughes said that. Now, it was all suggestion. It was all based on some information that came out in some of his social media. And Gray Hughes went there. And most of the people that I know that sit around and talk about YouTube true crime night after night after night, we were horrified because we said, "Oh my God, I okay, it's not like this came out in a court of law, but his family is a very religious family. Maybe his family had no idea. Who the hell are you to make a guess like that?" So I don't think that Gray Hughes is a bad guy. I think he made a mistake. He went outside of his normal parameters because he's human. We all do it. We can't help but do it. So he made another mistake. He drove to Moscow and was recording the camera by there at the apartments close to where the Idaho 4 lived. And the guy came out and basically threatened him and almost assaulted him. And Gray ran away. You know, he ran and jumped in his car and left. Those two things just in 1 year, those two things that happened to him were there. He did what a lot of other people would do. I'm not saying that what he did was egregious and horrible, but the reason I bring those two things up is it went so far outside of his own self-prescribed limits. You only report facts. You only talk about what's in the news. Facts, 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 facts. Only. Nothing. No conjecture. Nothing. But you guys are sitting there like hawks or spiders. You're waiting for these channels that you don't like. You sit and you watch their content that they put out, and you're sitting there like spiders waiting for one person on panel to say the wrong thing. One misstep is all you're looking for, so you can pounce. Well, if you guys were honest, chasing your friends with Gray, if you were honest, the standards that you're holding other people to, other creators to, why didn't you pounce on Gray Hughes? Because you're friends, that's why. Because you recognized he didn't do anything other people are doing. I'm going to overlook this. But it went outside of exactly what you guys are saying that all creators should be doing. And you've done this now in a way that you're hurting people. You're hurting creators that really have no reason to be hurt. These people are not trying to go against you and your high moral standards. It is you that are invading others. Just stay in your own channel. If you have these ideas and these gold standards for how you want to report true crime or discuss true crime, then do it on your channel. I fail to understand the constant bullying that Mr. Beast is exploiting people's misery by building them houses to live in. Look, here's something. Let me tell you what happened in El Salvador. It's crazy. So they did a show. They went into El Salvador. They built a whole bunch of houses for people, right? And it was a great day. I mean, people were just ecstatic. Had never any hope of ever having any money in their lifetime for building a house. I mean, there's barely money to get for food, right? At a house. And this guy comes in with his YouTube channel and he builds them houses. It's crazy. It's like someone giving you $1 million, people. Well, it turned out where a few of the houses were built, there was flash floods. It was a constant threat of flash floods. And so he says, we made a mistake. We put the houses in the wrong place. We made a mistake, and they relocated the houses. They moved them to higher ground. They put the people in a place where they wouldn't be under threat of mudslides and flash flooding. And he built the village a brand new soccer field for everyone out of the goodness of his heart. And you people said that he was exploiting them. Stop what you're doing. You are looking through the lens of the people that judged Mr. Beast and said that he's exploiting other people's misery. You're doing that. You're looking at true crime creators that legitimately are just simply trying to discuss the story. It's a news story. And you are hurting other people. If you really are who you say you are, if you really are the kind of person who's just looking out for good people, just looking out to protect victims, who is going to protect your victims? The people that you are victimizing, who's going to protect them? You think, hey, it's just a YouTube channel. All I'm doing is I'm just talking about other people. I'm not being bad. Do you know people have committed suicide for exactly what you're doing? I've come under the lens of a crazy person. I've had a crazy person making weird, strange videos about me that had no reason or rhyme. And it's a horrible experience. It's a terrible experience. My challenge, my challenge is practice what you preach. You don't like the way that I talk about true crime? Okay, well, you have a platform with a large following. Why don't you cover the stories the way you want them to be? Just make your own channel. If this is so dear and near and important to your heart, make your own channel. Cover the stories in your way. And people will make a decision whether they want to listen to you, or they want to listen to me, or they want to listen to Brittany J, or they want to listen to Granny Who's Watching. People will make that decision on their own. But when YouTube looks at your channel and you've got 50 plus videos about the same creator, you know what you are. And you did the same exact thing to Katie Joy. Same thing happened to Critical K. And she answered to the tune of $10 million in a court of law. Remember, Mr. Beast is a great guy. He went in and he built houses in Colombia and gave every single kid a bicycle. Brand new bicycle. And people like Nonsense said that he's a bad guy because he exploited those children. He exploited those children giving them bicycles. He exploited those people building them houses. Just let that sink in. Y'all have a good day.